Hey, what's up guys? Jake with Legacy 4x4 here again, and today we are back working on the Bronco. So if you watched the last video, or watched the last video that I made on the Bronco, we did some propane and water mounts, and this week I'm going to fulfill my promise where I said we're going to remake the rear bumper. I know I just made this bumper a couple months ago, but I want something that's going to match the rest of the tube work that's on the Bronco, so we're making this one again. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll start walking through this process. Alright, so for this bumper, like I said, I want something that's going to match the rest of the tube work. So I've got a tube roof rack, I've got tube rock sliders / steps on the side, and I've got a tube front bumper with a large winch plate on it for the winch on the Bronco. Now on the rear of it, I used to have that piece of rectangular tube that was back there, or well, sheet metal that was meant to be rectangular tubing. And I want something that's going to look like the rest of the Bronco, and it's going to match with some of the other stuff I'm going to build on the Bronco eventually too. So for this, when I bought the steel to do the front bumper, I actually bought too much of it. I bought 20 more feet than what I needed, and so we're going to use that 20 feet and we're going to remake the back bumper of this Bronco. Now my design is going to be pretty simple. I don't want anything too complicated. I'm going to try to do this kind of quickly because I want to get to building out the rest of the Bronco. And that's my big priority is I want to get the back end of this Bronco built out. So we're going to knock out this pretty quickly here today. So to start, we're going to be using, this is Schedule 40 pipe that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot or near your hardware stores. This is not tube technically, it's not DOM tube. DOM down here where I live in North Carolina is still incredibly expensive, like over $400 for a stick of it, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it, but the price has just never come down. So we're going to use this. This is about $50 for 10 feet, so $100 for 20 feet of it. I'm going to try to make this entire bumper using just the two pieces of 20 feet that I have left over from the front. In front of me here, I've got one piece of it cut down already. I cut this down to 86 inches. What I'm going to be doing is making the front hoop. So my basic design for this is going to be two bent pieces, one straight piece, and then some ladder work notches as gussets for the piece. In addition to that, then I want to do a kind of like a dimple dyed step on the top of it that'll match the dimple dyes that are on the side of the Bronco as well as the dimple dyes on the roof of the Bronco. So this is going to be the outermost bar. The reason why I'm doing this bar first is because I'm going to have it in place, and then I'm going to use another piece of tube to make the crossbar that connects it. This will make more sense as we get going. Point is, I've got to bend this tube into place and then bend another one identical to it. So we're going to have one horizontal tube bent and then one flipped up perpendicular to that bend as well, and that's going to be the main face of this bumper. Once we get the main tube structure done, we're then going to also add in I've got some aluminum plate that was left over, I think from one of Matt's Samurai's. I've got some aluminum plate. I want to do some aluminum inserts onto this, and we're going to do some rear facing rock lights, reverse lights, some fog lights on the rear bumper as well. So we've got some fog lights, we're going to do some aluminum facing, and then we're going to make a hitch for it, hopefully, if we can get all that done here in the next couple of hours. Anyways, to bend this, like I said, I cut this to 86 inches. I've got the bends marked 16 inches from each side, and we're going to do a 41 degree bend on each of these. So let's go. I've got the bender outside already, got the air compressor already turned on and filled up. So let's go ahead and shove this into the bender and get this thing all bent up. Okay, so as you can see on the table, I've got the main, like the upper hoop already done. It is how it's going to be. I've already got it fully welded. It's only 2 joints, so I just went ahead and welded it off camera. Now, I was playing with how I wanted to do this other bottom hoop, and I thought about bending something. I thought about doing something complicated, and I decided it really doesn't need that. And I came up with a different solution. So I just plasma cut these. Apologize, I did not turn the camera on while I was using the CNC machine. But I plasma cut these 2 little brackets out. So I've got 2 of them. These are each made out of 1/8 inch steel. I will more than likely add in 2 additional brackets in the middle of this once I get this into place. But basically what I'm going to do is these go on top of the tube like this. So they will sit here. They will sit here on the tube. Now, I don't have a whole lot of tube left, which is one of the reasons I decided not to do anything bent, because I didn't think it would have looked right. So instead, this was one of the cutoffs. This is about probably 3 feet, 3 and some change feet of tube. I'm going to basically float this in the middle of the rest of this tube structure. So as you're looking at this, this is the bottom of the bumper. What's on the table is the top. So this will be down a little bit lower, about 6 inches lower. So we'll have a plate welded on to the tubes here, and then this tube will weld onto it like so, creating a kind of like ladder tiered effect that will give me a place to put my lights and a few other things. So we've got this and we've got those. Now I'm going to turn on the welder again, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to put these into position. I know I'm doing a lot of this off of the truck, and normally I like to build bumpers on the truck, but the way the rear bumper is pretty easy. I've got 2 1/4-inch pieces of plate coming off the back frame that are perfectly in line with the back of the body. I already know that this fits perfectly. I just had it lined up and measured. I know that this is going to be perfectly fine. So I'm comfortable building off of this base here and building it up on the table where it's a little bit easier to manage things, it's easier to get things positioned perfectly, and it's a lot easier to weld on. So that's what I'm working on with this. Once it gets to the point of positioning on the truck, I'll leave the brackets into place, I'll lift this into place, and I'll tack weld it, get it all perfect, make sure it's lined up exactly the way I want it to, and then do the final weld for the bracketry off of the truck. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and weld these little pieces into place, and then we will keep moving. We're making pretty quick progress. I doubt I'll get this finished today, but I'm going to have this pretty close to done today, which is pretty fun considering this has only been I've been working on this for a little over an hour now, so this is a pretty quick project so far. Anyways, let me go and get this into place, and then I will catch up with you guys in a minute. Alright, so this is the bumper so far. As you can see, I've added on these plates to the top. There's a total of 3 of them. I thought about doing like a full length piece of it, but I actually kind of thought the stagger looked a little bit better. So I basically covered the wings, and then I covered the center. Now you got a place to step if I needed to step up to get up to the roof rack or something. And then I didn't really think there was much of a need to have anything in this spot where my left hand is here. Now on the lower part of it, this is the top, the step section. On the lower part of it, now I need to add in the tube for the receiver hitch, as well as some additional vertical supports to structure and strengthen this up a little bit. And then I need to decide if I'm going to do a plate or if I'm just going to mount the lights just on the tubes here. Now, I picked up this receiver tube. You can buy these at Harbor Freight. You can make these yourself too. These aren't too hard to make. You can buy the 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch steel, and you can just make these yourself. Honestly, I don't think it's really worth it. You can buy these for like 15 bucks for a 12-inch one of them, cheaper if they're on sale. This is just not worth my time to make when they're so cheap to just purchase. So I got one of these. This is going to go generally here-ish. Got to figure out how it's going to look. Got to figure out what that's going to be like. Maybe I'll make it floating. I don't know. I'll play with that here in a second, but that's going to go in the middle of the tube that we have here, and then we'll build out the rest of the stuff around it. So let me kind of play with the design a little bit. I'm going to clean up the table a little bit, and then we will keep moving. I'll show you guys how I mount this, but this will be the next one that we mount. Okay, so I didn't really record any of the process of that. I was kind of just like putting it together as I went, making pieces that I thought would fit and that I thought would look good. But you can see that I've got the hitch fully welded up here now. So like I said, this is just your standard 2-inch receiver tube that you can buy at Harbor Freight, about 15 bucks. I mounted it to the top 2 pieces of the bumper first. So basically what I did, I flipped the bumper up on its side. I laid this down exactly in the middle of the bumper, and then I welded to the tube itself. Now welding flat, the flat receiver tube to the rounded tube that I'm using for this project is not the best or strongest way to do this. So I was like, okay, we need to add some more reinforcement onto this. Now there's not a whole lot of space up top to add that reinforcement, so I built it down. And the way I did that is like plasma cut out from some scrap 1/4 inch. These little triangular pieces or straight angled pieces that are on the sides. So there's 2 big 1/4 inch angle pieces that are about 1.5 inches wide. I honestly don't know how long they are. I didn't measure. I was just measuring it off of this. And they go up from the bottom tube up to the top, mount into the receiver hitch. And then below that, I put another 1/4 inch plate that is welded on all 4 sides as well. That's from the bottom of the tube down to our lower support bar. Now this is going to provide a couple of different benefits. First off, it's going to reinforce the hitch here. Now, like I said before when I built the last bumper, I will never tow anything with this truck. It's not going to be used to tow a trailer, maybe at most a small off-road trailer, but really this is going to be for like a bicycle rack. or like maybe like a swing out tire carrier, maybe like a recovery point, something like that. I'm not planning on towing a full-size vehicle or anything like that with this truck. I have an F-350. If I need to tow something, I will use that truck to do it. This is mostly to provide options so that I have the ability to hook up maybe like I said, a small bicycle rack to carry some additional things, maybe like a very, very small expedition type trailer, any sorts of accessories that go on trailer hitches, possibly even like a rear mounted winch and a whole bunch of other stuff that's all going to be able to go here. So this has enough strength for that. I don't have like safety chains or anything like that bolted back here for that reason as well, because again, I'm not planning on towing a trailer with this. It's going to be meant for accessories and because I think trucks are supposed to have hitches. So we've got a fully boxed in 1/4 inch support. We've got the 2-inch receiver mount itself, and then we've got it tied into all of these tubes. So that is the hitch. In addition to that, this also provides some center support for the bumper. So like I don't feel the need to add a bunch more vertical supports like I have on the sides. I don't really feel a need to add a bunch more vertical supports in the middle here. I want this to look kind of open. I don't want it to be super crowded. I want it to be just a cool little open tube bumper. So that's what we got there. I'm going to go line it up on the truck, tack weld it into place and bring it back inside here, and then I'm going to start to weld on the weight mounts of the truck. Now, it is going to be a little bit janky. I don't have a whole lot of meat because I was using some scrap 1/4 inch to do the tie-ins. So I'm going to tack weld it into place so that I know that the bolt holes are in the right spot. And then we're going to come through and we're going to have to add in some additional supports and finish building out the supports for this bumper. So anyways, I'm going to go tack this on the truck and bring it back onto the table and we'll get started on the next part. Okay, so I just tack welded this into place on the truck. I got it all lined up using jack stands, tack welded into place, brought it into here, and then welded the little bit of steel that I have. So it's not a whole lot, it's just these little pieces right here. So it's not a lot of meat to tie into, and you obviously want a little bit more than that. Now like this would hold, it would keep the bumper in place, and you could probably step on it and be okay, but I do want some more support than that on this. So again, going along the habit of using scrap steel that I have, these are cutouts from beadlocks I made for a truck once that I cut on the plasma table. I had these circular drops that were just strapped, just sitting around. These are 1/4 inch as well. So what I did is this is where the beadlock originally was, this was the outside of it. I basically made this little like hoop type gusset material, and the idea here is this is going to go underneath it. It's going to tie in to our big 1/4 inch plate here. It's going to wrap underneath the tubes and tie into both of these two tubes here as well. And that is going to provide more rigidity and more structure. There's going to be quite a few inches of weld that's going to hold this into place, which I think will both look good and will also function really well for this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just weld these up real quick and then get these into place, and then we'll see if we think we need any more support. I'll take a look at it once it's all done. But anyways, let's get on to the welding. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I think that's pretty sturdy. Like I said, there's probably, 12 inches of weld that's holding in these two giant 1/4 inch pieces of plate together, wrapped up around all of the tube. I guess I could do another vertical piece down here, but then I think you're going to start stacking too many individual pieces of tube together or sheet metal together. I think it'll kind of look a little sloppy. So I'm going to actually call that at that. I've got to just weld on the light mounts, and then we got to paint this bumper up. So I'm going to get those light mounts welded up and get this thing painted, and I'll show you guys what it looks like installed on the truck. Alright, so I just got the bumper installed on the truck. I still have to install the lights, but we will do that here in a second. I wanted to talk about the lights first. So, a whole bunch of different options for lights. I chose to go with the Harbor Freight ones. These are the Road Shock lights. I think it's like 80 bucks for 2 of them. Overall, not too bad. They are actually pretty high quality. They've got a nice mount to them. They've got all the hardware, and they actually are pretty nice. It's one of the things that Harbor Freight does do really well. So if you are looking for like some relatively cheap, high quality off-road lights, these are very heavy. They're very durable. These are very nice. So I do recommend these if this is what you're kind of thing that you're looking for. Anyway, so the way these go, I weld it onto the bumper itself, the hanger. You can bolt them into place. I choose to weld them because I think the bolt always comes loose and it makes the lights just spin all sorts of random directions. And I'm not really a huge fan of that. So I chose to weld them out into place, and then I will bolt the lights into place. That just happens to work better for me, but feel free to use the bolts if you want to use the bolts. They also come with a nice pigtail with the ends already prepped for you, so when it comes time to tie in wiring, which I'm not going to do today, but when it comes time to tying in wiring, this will be really nice to run through. You can get a nice clean installation of that, and then obviously there's a matching pigtail connector on this side of it. It's a little higher quality than what you'll get on some of the cheaper ones you can buy on Amazon and other places, so you actually get a pigtail connector, which is really nice. Anyways, let me take you guys out to the truck and show you guys what the bumper looks like, and then we'll install these lights and we'll close out. So coming down here, you can see I do have the hitch installed, or the ball installed right now. I'll probably take that off for a little while until I don't need it anymore. But you can see this is the bumper. It hugs this side of the body pretty close. I could have chopped a little bit more of this off on this side, but I think it kind of looks good to kind of give a wrap around the truck and kind of give it some space to, if you were to hit something, kind of protect that rear quarter panel. Same thing on this side. Same amount of space, same amount of lip. Coming down low, you can see we've got the 2 of those Harbor Freight Road Shock off-road LED lights. We have the hitch without a pin in it, and you can see a little bit closer here of what that looks like. And those welds, I know, you know, grinder and paint and all that, but those welds aren't ground down or cleaned up at all, just painted over. And so you can see I'm really happy with how that turned out. Welding thick metal is definitely a little bit easier to get a really nice pretty bead on. So we've got our little stair steps, the 3 little horizontal pieces here. These will give you something to step onto if I wanted to climb up to the roof or do whatever. And the tailgate will lay down on top of this, and it doesn't hit it or anything like that. So you've got the tailgate and you'll have access to the bed and all those kind of things. Now I've still got to wire up the lights. You can see I've got the pigtails kind of hanging down in here, wrapped over the top of the receiver hitch and kind of tucked up in there so it looks nice and clean, and then I'll run it back along the rest of the factory harness to the rear there. These are how those little hangers got for that lower bar, and then you can see our supports and where we have it tied into the frame back there with some 1/2 inch by 13 grade 8 bolts. Anyways, overall I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it looks a lot better, and it really does help kind of bring the truck together, kind of gives it the same vibe from front to rear on the entire truck. So I'm really happy with how this truck's turning out so far. Okay, so this is going to finish up this video for the day. Like I said, just another relatively simple rear bumper on the 1990 Ford Bronco. This bumper took probably about 6 hours total to complete, 5 to 6 hours, somewhere in there, including paint time, which is not that bad, honestly. And material cost, $100 for steel, a little bit of scrap 1/4 inch, and then $80 for the 2 lights, which again, really not that bad of a deal overall. I'm really happy with how it looks. I'm happy with how it functions with the rest of the tube work we've got on the truck. It's not too overwhelming, but it definitely brings together the whole truck. It makes it look a lot better, a lot more cohesive and more thought out than what it used to. Alright, so with all that said, the next video I'm going to do on the truck is going to be building out the rear. It's going to be a few parts in that video. The first one will be building the drawer sliders and the drawer system and like mounting it into the truck. And then after that I'll probably do a video on building the drawers by themselves, because I've got some pretty clever ideas I think for some of the drawers. So we'll do a video on the drawers itself and then building in the bed and all the rest of the stuff that goes in the back of it. So expect probably 3 or 4 more videos on building out the back of this truck. I've got a little bit of random work to do, some little nitpicky, kind of like tidying some things together that I gotta do on the inside of the truck. So I'm gonna knock those out off camera and then get into building the back of this truck. Overall, this thing is shaping up really nicely. It's making a ton of progress really quickly, and I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping to take this for a camping trip this summer sometime, so hopefully we can get this thing done and out here pretty soon. Anyways, I hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you all on the next one.